Y'all, we are back, picking back up another episode of Uncorked Conversations. This is just part 2. Hopefully you have watched part 1 by now. If you are just tuning in, welcome back to another episode of Uncorked Conversations, where we have real, raw, authentic, and transparent conversations over wine. I am here still with Meka. As you can see, she still has her wine, because part 1... Let's just say if you haven't seen part 1, go back and watch part 1. But we are back. We're back for part 2.
We're back for part 2. And y'all, I've been still sipping wine. It has been a very interesting conversation with Sunny J.
It is.
So listen, we got to pick up, because I know if anybody was like me, it's like you watching the whole episode and you get pissed off when the episode ends and you want to know what happens next. So if you didn't watch, as Sunny said, you need to go back and watch it, because honey, it's a whole lot that you want to know, especially since we're picking up right where we left off.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last thing we talked about was this spirit that this woman had on you in regards to this man that is currently in prison.
Yeah.
In 2024.
Right.
And you went and talked to the lady. The lady told you that you needed to get him off of you. Mm-hmm. And you also couldn't go and find her.
Right.
So let's talk about, he's off of you at this point.
Yeah.
Is he off of you?
Yeah.
During that, okay. And you had this thing that you had to do that people too nosy and can't see or know about. However,
I ain't gonna give y'all all that.
Yeah. Because you look up, it'll be a spirit on me.
Right. I won't open that portal.
Right. So let's talk about life after that.
Okay.
Like, because I know mentally, especially the flesh, really wanted to go and look for her.
Yeah.
Because now she got Granny involved.
Yeah.
And all of these people involved in what's taking place. So let's talk about life after that. Like, what took place after that? How you got him off of you? Did you feel like he was off of you? Did matters change where you just all of a sudden was free and you didn't have the situations that was taking place when it was? Like, let's talk about that.
He was off of me, but the weight wasn't. It was like an exchange of weight, because now all of these other things have taken place. But like I said, it was one of those situations to where you asking yourself, like, which version of me am I about to, like, allow to respond and react to this situation? Because that was going to set the tone for everything to follow.
Right.
I'm not going to say if I passed or failed the test.
Well,
but I did not go look for the lady.
Okay.
That was super important. Going through something like that was the craziest thing that I had ever been through. And if you've ever been through something or gone through something like that, don't ever take it for granted. Don't take it lightly. It's a real thing. Spirits are a real thing. So for me, it was super important to, for the first time in probably all the things that I've been through, like, really trust God to handle the situation. Because I couldn't tell you what the outcome was going to be if I had to go look for her.
Because she specifically said that you were going to die.
She was going to finish me.
Yeah. You were going to be finished.
So I moved.
Okay.
That was the first thing.
You moved out from being with him.
Right.
Okay.
Moved out from being with him. And I had to pretty much, like, start over. Another side of town. Start over. Go under the radar. Because at this point, I've been to the psych wards. I've been suicidal. You know, I've done drugs. I've done all these things. So now I'm trying to figure out, what the hell do I do now?
Right.
Because now I'm still physically going through all of the health things
Right.
in result to what she's caused to my body. For me, it was trying to go back and get me, like trying to find myself again, because it was an out-of-body experience where I did not know who I was. I didn't know if I was coming or going at that point.
Now, okay, so you didn't know who you were the whole time that this was taking place. Were you separated from your family, that they didn't understand or they didn't see a difference in you and the things that you were going through? And I'm not even just talking about health-wise, because of course they knew something.
Right.
But could they see a change to where you were having this out-of-body experience, or you were, I don't want to say you was out of your mind. However, you wasn't mentally in a space where, could your family recognize that?
Absolutely. I experienced a lot of manic moments. Okay. At this point, I had been diagnosed with bipolar, and the list goes on. The list is long. I had been diagnosed with all these things. It was actually my family that drove me to the lady because it got to a point to where, one, I was reluctant to how far I let them in my life because a part of me is like, I'm here because of y'all.
Yeah.
You know, I ran to this man because I was running from something there. So that was a big part of it. But they drove me to the lady because it was very, it bothered my grandma a lot to see me in a place that I was unrecognizable, hot-headed, as the lady said. Like, we could tear this place up right now, today, if we need to. So they saw parts of me that they had never recognized before. But they didn't know if that was a result of things that was going on or in result of the things that said family don't speak about. Right. You know, that nobody wanted to take ownership or accountability for. So it's hard for people to support something that they don't understand. So for me, I wasn't getting the support that I needed, which now I understand why, because they didn't know what to do. Right. You know, even with being diagnosed with bipolar, you know, disorder and going through like manic episodes and things, when people don't educate themselves, they don't know what to do, how to respond, like how to support you, how to show up. It's either you crazy or you not. You know, and at that point, it drew a wedge between us because y'all thinking I'm crazy. I'm trying to tell y'all that ain't the case. Like, I am, you know, very well aware of the fact that this is not me. Right. You know, so it's that's a hard place to be in when no one understands, so they can't show up and support you.
So do you think, this is so good, but do you think, and then you're also in a space where you don't know if it's from the spiritual aspect of what the lady did, right, or if mentally you are really going through those things aside from what she has. So they really don't understand.
Because by the time I'm taking 13, 14 prescription pills at this time. Right. I didn't know what the hell was going on.
You don't know either or.
I don't know.
You just know it's something.
I just know it's something. All I knew was that at some point I arrived to the place that I don't want to die no more. Because you got to think, I had all these attempts of suicide, and it got to the point when I tell you I was frustrated with God, like one of those times that I planned to overdose, went out on a drive, was hoping to not make it back home, and made it back home, parked again. Before I got out of that car, I was, oh God, you got to see me. You got to see me. Because what you want, what you want with me, and whatever it is you need to make it plain right now, because you could have been let me go. Like, if you going to keep me here, you need to make it worth my while. And you need to make it very clear what you want. Because I'm at my end. I'm at the end. What you want me to do? So it got to that point to where it's like, you got my attention. What? I was frustrated with God. I was angry.
So do you think that because of your childhood, the situations that you went through that brought you to a space where you, aside from the spiritual attack, do you honestly believe that what they labeled you as was your label, or do you think that it just had to do with what you went through from your childhood? Because I think people need to understand the difference in the two. Because some people are labeled by their situation or their circumstance, but they may not be mentally who they truly are. So I want to make sure that it's clear that you can't just be out here labeling yourself because of your circumstance. However, I want to know your thoughts on that.
I'm going to say a few things. You can't label what you don't acknowledge. It's easy for us to throw a known or common, name, diagnosis, or label on something because it deflects from us having to actually do the digging and do the work. At the end of the day, all of the things that I went through, do I feel like I experienced some mood changes or it affected me in some kind of ways? Absolutely. Do I feel like I should have been labeled with all of these things? Absolutely not. If I had to be labeled with anything, it would have been PTSD. Now, granted, that's in the chart, but that would have been the only thing that I would have labeled myself as, because that just simply saying there's some post-trauma, all of these other labels, sometimes those things are detected early on, whatever the case may be. When we ignore everything that took place leading up to an action. We've disregarded all of the data.
Right.
Nobody looked at the data. Nobody said, why is she acting like this? Why is she responding like this? What caused this? What made her do this? I didn't just wake up one day and decide to have these manic episodes where, oh, I don't want to live. No. A child doesn't just, it's not just born and decides they don't want to be here no more. Something happened leading up to it. For me, it just happened to be a million things happened, and I was reaching these points so I was tired. But I feel like sometimes we're so quick and easy to throw a label on ourselves or on other people because it's the easiest thing to do. Yeah. Let's break it down. Let's do the work. Like, let's get a better understanding of what caused this person to even get to that place. Right. And a lot of times we need to ask ourselves, not why did this child do this? Where were the parents? Right. And as we talked about being held accountable. Yeah, where was the village? Yeah. But for me, I had to get to a mindset to where I don't care what y'all put in them charts. I'm not none of that. Wow. I'm not none of that. And I stopped labeling myself as that because I never had an excuse as to why I couldn't survive or why I couldn't do this. You either got it at the mud or you didn't. There was no in between. For me, when it came to these labels, I said, if I take on these labels like a badge of honor, I will then give myself an excuse as to why I can't overcome this, why I can't become this, why I can't do that. Nobody not doing that to me. Once I found out for myself that there was a whole nother world that existed outside of the world that I had been like living in and conditioned to, it was up from there.
Yeah. That was going to be my next question, because we talked about you having to find yourself. Yeah. Like, you had to go find you. Yes. Everybody got to find themselves. Yes. But what was it for? Because you, like you said, you had a million things that happened prior to this. Yeah. Now we're in our 20s, going into our 30s. Yeah. And oftentimes we may think we found ourselves. We may think we made it. We where we're supposed to be, and all of those different things. So what was it that you did, or what was it, a snap for you that said, okay, I don't want to live this life no more. Let me do the work, or let me figure out, or let me go to counseling. What was it that made you, or how did you get to the point of finding yourself after all of the traumatic experiences?
I think we're always going to be finding ourselves. Yeah. But I think for me, the bridge between those moments were, one, the last suicide attempt didn't work, and I got tired. I got frustrated with the attempts. I then had a cousin that was successful in her attempt, but she went about it one of the very same ways that I did. Wow. So for me, part of me was like, what made her so special? But the other part was like, yours wasn't supposed to work. Like, just grasp that understanding.
Oh, for yourself. For yourself, yeah.
It wasn't supposed to. The other side of that, people always recognize like the light in me. People outside of the environment that I grew up in. And I would get frustrated because I couldn't see what they could see. So it was always those moments to where somebody would, recognize it, and going through this, they not knowing what I'm going through. But in those moments, I'm like, well, what they see that I don't see? And now I want to see. Right. Now I'm curious, because it's when you don't know who you are, it's easy to, be curious about who people are telling you are. So it's like, well, if they say I'm bad, I kind of want to see a little bit. I kind of want to know.
Let me look a little deeper.
Let me see what they're talking about.
That is me.
That's me. This doesn't consume all of me. These were just chapters. This is not my whole book. So I became curious about, okay, God, well, if you didn't let this take me out, this take me out, what you keeping me here for? Now I want to know. Now I want to know. So for me, it wasn't an overnight. It wasn't a snap. It was a different things that took place that made me just want to stick around and figure it out. Because at this point, it's like, well, clearly it ain't up to me anyway. I'm here. What else is clearly? So once God made it very clear, like, hey, I got something for you to do. Yeah. I began to understand that it was much bigger than me. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know none of these things, but I began to understand it was much bigger than me. And, seeing some of the world at that time, because I did get to travel a little bit, let me know that there is more out there. Yeah. And it was, the hardest thing was leaving who I was and allowing God to like, you know, mold me into who I was becoming. So that was the biggest part for me, but changing my environment.
Yeah, I was gonna say that
I
too.
went through a still place, and in that moment of like being still, I was reserved. I was still slightly cold. I was guarded because now I'm coming out of this survival person. But I also don't know this other person either that I'm becoming. So I'm gonna just sit in the middle for a little bit. I don't want to be cold or warm. I'm gonna just be lukewarm. Because me and God getting to know each other right now. Although I had been in the church all this time, it wasn't until those moments that I created an intimate relationship with God. So I was in the middle like, I know I want to go back there, but homegirl over there, it looked like people gonna be able to get over on her a little bit. Like people gonna be able to get by. I don't know if I'm ready, because if I choose to be her, I can't be her at all. So it was those moments. I knew that I had to go into some therapy. I knew that because I knew that I couldn't just lean on my own understanding. My understanding was very much Denzel training day, like I said. But I also knew at the time the people around me didn't have any better understanding of what I had either. So I knew if it ain't us, it got to be somebody else.
So there was a time. So let's talk about your relationships in this time frame.
What relationships?
The relationships that
you
thought you
had. Relationships. No, I'm just kidding.
The relationships.
My experiences.
Well, at the time, we did think
they
were
experiences.
You put an emphasis on
experiences. No.
So let's talk about that, because there's some recent things that happened recently. And we said pulling back all the layers and get real deep. So this is where we are. But relationships, because you know you got past that relationship. So let's talk about and I'm talking relationships. I was getting ready to say with the man, but then there was some other things that happened. So let's talk about those trends. Don't be trying.
It was a little fly.
Don't be trying to navigate, like get away from it. But seriously, because you were finding yourself. You were finding yourself, and there are people that go through life transitions that are trying to navigate and trying to find themselves, and they do things that some people may not say is normal. It may be normal to them, or it may just be a season that they were in at that particular time. So if you ask me, you were finding yourself from a child all the way until an adult. And so let's talk about that too, because there could be people that's in that space too.
She want to talk about a lot. Our relationships.
Just 2 episodes.
So after that relationship, I moved to a new apartment at the time, and a guy that I went to high school with we had kind of got back in contact. We had never dated, but he was always fond of me. He had been loving me since high school. I always appreciated him. He knew the environment that I stayed in. Like, he would actually come pick me up for school some days, so I didn't have to like catch a ride from one of the dudes outside. But we had never been in a relationship. And he took a shot and pursued me. At that time, I was very upfront with him. I have nothing to give you right now. Like, I don't love nobody right now. I just come out of something to where I may be no good for you. Like, you're trying to overwhelm me with love, and I appreciate it, but you can't love me for the both of us.
You still in that cold heart space at this time.
I'm coming out of it, but you a different type of guy.
Okay.
You're the first different than what I've dated. I had been dating street dudes. If you ain't been to jail, you ain't sold it. I don't know what to do with you.
You too nice. You a nice boy.
It wasn't even about nice. We come from 2 different places where I'm a survivor at that time. I don't have time to translate what this means. I don't have time for that. It was easier having somebody with a like mind, mindset. He was the first different guy, and he wanted to overwhelm me with all this love that had been growing in him for me since high school.
Wow.
And for me, I could have taken advantage of that. it still, like I said earlier, it still never made me that malicious person. But I wanted him to know I have nothing to give you. The love that you're trying to give me, I can't match it.
Yeah.
You do not deserve to be responsible for nothing that I went through before you. We could just be friends. He was very adamant, I want to love you through it. You could learn to love me years later. You could learn to love me when we 50. You supposed to be my wife. I had never experienced this. I'm like, I keep telling you, boy, you better get, hey, I have nothing. Meaning some days I may not want to talk.
Right.
Like, I need you to understand. Like, there's a way that you need to learn how to touch me as a survivor and as a person coming out of survival mode. I've been through some things you can't phantom. So the love you want to give me, a simple touch may trigger me. I need you to know that.
Yeah.
You know? Especially if you're dealing with some insecurities of your own. So we gave it a shot. We got engaged. We never made it down the aisle. And that's why I tell people, don't let history be the only reason why you try to build a future off of it. I'm glad that I was able to be honest and upfront with him about where I was. I think for me, the learning curve was, one, I'm probably definitely a villain in his story. And I'm okay with that.
I'm sitting up here smiling because I'm putting two and two together. But keep going.
I'm okay with that. But he also has some unresolved trauma and brokenness to where he saw a piece of his grandmother in me, and he, in so many words, tried to love her through me.
Got it.
So I was paying for her, leaving. She rested her soul. She went on, but I was paying for her leaving. So it was certain things that would not allow us to mesh. I was used to a man leading, and I feel like sometimes when a man deals with insecurities, it's hard for him to lead a strong-minded individual. But if I didn't answer the phone, I would have 57 missed calls, right? And part of it was insecurities. The other part of it is we come from two different lives. I'm out of pocket.
Yeah.
I'm going to call you back.
Yeah.
And I'm learning how to be in relationships, a different relationship. The other side of it was his grandmother called and, she said she was coming home. She never left. She never came. She passed away.
Wow.
So I'm now also paying for that.
Yeah.
So it just became a very toxic environment to where constantly arguing, cussing, fussing, to where if I needed to take a nap in the car in McDonald's parking lot before I go home just to guarantee some sleep, yes. However, this was a man that, because he had cared for his grandmother in her ailment, I was now dealing with my heart that wasn't functioning properly. I was taking all these medications. I was constantly in and out the hospital because now that I let the man go, I let the woman go, and I'm going back to get me. My body is now trying to release and understand what's going on. This medicine say do that. This medicine say do that. The heart say do this. The kidneys doing that. So I was back and forth, hospital, psych ward. This man never left my side in terms of caring for me in that way. So that's somebody I'll always appreciate for those things. But it also began to be weaponized at some point. And I'll go on the record and be very confident and say this. Some people like when you're in a place to where you are needed. Because I am held when I'm well.
Yeah.
In all the greatest ways. As I start to progress and get better and develop and not need as much assistance, I never took that for granted. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm better, we're done. But as I got better, that became too much for said individual. My light began to shine. I began to recognize my light. And still working through some of those things, it just became one of them things to where we're not getting anywhere in this relationship.
Yeah.
We're not. But I still was battling the fence of who I was versus who I'm becoming. So when we realized we were not going to work, and I knew that this was a different kind of relationship to where I had not been scared of many things, but I was always scared of a man that couldn't control his emotions. So for me, I saw and thought that this relationship become physically harmful to me. So I was like, I gotta leave.
Yeah.
And I gotta be willing to leave with nothing but my clothes. Guess who came got me? The man.
I was just about to say that. Are you serious?
The man.
Okay. I thought we released him.
We did.
How he come back?
I needed to get out.
So he was the captain.
Yeah. Or disguised as one.
You didn't go back though, did you?
For a little bit.
Lord, today. Y'all see how much I thought I knew.
For a little bit.
For a little bit. So did any repercussions happen?
No.
Okay. Because I was about to say, we got to go find her.
No.
Okay. Lord, I know he was excited that you called though.
Yeah, I think it was because of the environment that he came from.
Yeah. And you knew
he
him.
took pride in, I'll come handle that for you.
Yeah.
No, I didn't say that.
Yeah.
I said, come get me.
Yeah.
So he took pride in that, but
Yeah.
I still knew who he was.
Right.
So I knew that, I just need you to come get me. That's it.
Yeah.
Because I know street stuff.
You're right.
This not being able to handle your emotions you that's spiral and you pose a threat on me physically. I don't know what to do with that.
Right.
Because again, I'm a survivor. Denzel say I'm going home or I'm going to jail.
Yeah.
In that situation, I felt like your emotions that you couldn't control was going to either cause you to do something to me in the midst of trying to manage what you were dealing with, or my survival mindset was going to take you out before you even had the chance.
Right.
Either way it go, I got to get out of this. Yeah.
So there was a time, and we're going to leave all of the cliffs for when something else comes, and y'all hear about that in 2025. However, so there was a time that you were on all of these medications, right? And going through your transitions, finding yourself, you found out some other things that assisted you, and some tools, some strategies, some life changes that altered your health as well. Some of the things that people had embedded in your mind that you had to do in order to survive and be healthy and all of those different things. I want to talk about that because I remember there was one incident where you fell to your knees. You fell to your knees outside in public, but I think that was a crossover time. It was a crossover time.
It was,
and so I want to talk about that. So let's talk about that.
What's crazy? By this time this airs, we will know who our president is of this election. I was going to vote.
I know it.
And
in A-Leaf.
Crazy part is I had been looking for somewhere to vote this election. And every place that was listed that they was hosting voting, I called and they were not. I ended up having to go right back to the same place just like a week ago.
Really?
To go vote.
Wow.
And as I was walking, I felt very different walking on those grounds, that very same sidewalk. So at this time, I know that God is telling me I have a story and I need to tell it. But I kept trying to connect with ghostwriters to write for me because it's one thing to be like the main character of the story and then to have to like relive it, retell it, and sometimes it'll come out like I'm telling my story with no emotion attached. But for me, I know I'm here on assignment. So once an assignment is up, it's up.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say I'm not affected by it, but the emotions are not lingering to it because I understand that by the time I sit longer than I'm supposed to sit with it, I'm already being assigned to something else. So I kept trying to get a ghostwriter. At this time, this was like the second or third ghostwriter, and it was not working out.
It was not working out.
Not working out.
And the crazy thing, we found spots, we found recorded
third ghostwriter. Like, this was the third ghostwriter. It's crazy. But the process had already began, and we were getting deep into it, and here I am overplaying my part. At this time the ghostwriter, won't mention her name, was going through some things that I could relate to, domestic wise, and I'm trying to overserve, you know, in this situation because we still got it right.
Yeah.
However, I recognize what you're going through, what we need to do.
Right.
We need to come get you.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You know, and I had to learn a lesson one. Stop overplaying your part. That's number one. If God sent you there to do A just because you could do B and C, He said do A. And now you feel the needful to do F and everything else. Do A and get out.
Yeah.
The other thing
a word in itself.
The other thing is stop sending people on your behalf what God sent you. And it took me a couple times to learn that. Yeah. It did. It took me a few times to learn that. Me too.
I mean, I think it takes people once you open your hands and allow God to just be God, then everybody has went through that season.
You know what I realized that was attached to? Because a lot of these things just be like deeply rooted in unresolved stuff. I had always had a transactional childhood and teenage years. I never experienced somebody doing for me and me not knowing that there's something needed in return to compensate. So you're doing this and you're telling me, oh, you don't gotta pay me this, that, and I would love to write your story. Oh, now I gotta people please. I gotta overserve. I gotta overshow up because nothing is free where I come from. And if you ain't telling me you want it now, you're gonna want it then. Later, so let me just start running it down so I'm not in debt. That's good. Coming down the road. This person took my life story, and in my opinion, played with it. Played with my mind. Played with the things that I had gone through. And there was a day that, and this is how I can understand when people go off the ledge. Not that I, condone it, but I understand like that split second of a mindset where you got to choose who about to respond. She took my life story, she played with it. And I was in a very vulnerable stage at that point. I was transitioning from this survival person to I'm about to walk this walk that God want me to walk. But it was still fresh. Yeah. The cement was wet. It was wet. It was wet. Listen, it was wet. Listen, it was wet. Mind you, I'm trying to get out of the relationship with the, I've never dated a guy like you person. So she played with that story. There was a day that I was going to go vote because I gotta go vote. My grandma gonna check. She gonna want to know for sure that I voted. I gotta go vote. I had it in my mind. I'm going to vote, and after I go vote, she gonna see me. I'm going to deal with it, and I got it all planned out. She gonna see me, and it's happening. Went to go vote. Stood in line. Walking back to the car. Because now it's on. I didn't fulfill my... Stop laughing. Because I remember... I didn't fulfilled my duties as a civilian. I didn't pay my debts to society. My grandma, check. Got that out the way. It's your time. It's your time. I don't care where you at. I don't care who there. It's happening today. I guarantee you that. I'm walking. Head up, chin up, chest out. You ready? Ready. I get ready to cross that street. God will really bring you to your knees when He know you about to cause destruction over His plan for your life after you've given Him your yes. I don't even remember it being nothing to trip over on the street. I stumbled, hit these knees on that concrete. Everything in my purse fell out on the ground. I could only walk to my car. Because that's how hard I hit my knees. I ended up having to go to the emergency room. I fractured something behind my kneecap. That's why I'm not going to say you got to be mindful, but because that helped save my life in a lot of ways. I really would have gone to go do something so stupid because only I know what I was going to go do and you. Yeah. But I would have done something so stupid and changed my life in a matter of seconds because we will allow the old us to show up in new spaces,
especially after our yes.
Our yes,
and he don't want you to get sidetracked from what your assignment is. So let me bring you down all the way to your yes.
I was trying to bring who I was and who I am and who you want me to be all to the show. And God made it very clear she not welcome here. And because you are still battling to, stop and confront her, I'm stepping in. I'm intervening because that was my prayer. God, intervene because I don't know how to do this one. You telling me to unlearn 20 years. And in my mind, I need to have unlearned it today.
Yeah.
Because I need to know.
But even after that, like, your life changed after that.
Let me tell you. So I didn't get to go do what I had in mind to go do. I had to go to the ER. I was on crutches, mind you. I'm living upstairs, so I'm got to take the dog out and bring him up. I'm on crutches and everything. Listen, God never allows me to run into people that I have issues with while I'm still cooling off. And I thank him for that because when you can't control yourself, your action, your emotions, all it takes is that to change the outcome.
I'm telling you.
Probably like 2 months later, I'm grocery shopping. I run into it in the grocery store. Mind you, my heart jumped because in that moment I'm like,
you don't know what's gonna take place.
No, it's the two people on the shoulder. What we gonna do? What we gonna do? I didn't have to do nothing. Her heart left her whole body. I wouldn't have been surprised if she pooped herself in the grocery store. It was like she saw a ghost.
Yeah.
It was like she saw a ghost. And all I did was looked at her in her eyes. And I just turned away and walked off. And in that moment, all the way, I had a basket full of stuff. I left all that shit there. Because I said, I got to get out. I got to go. I got to go and I got to go quick.
Yeah, because you don't know if
how long it's going to last. But I got to get out before the old me show up. Lord, this can't be my story. This can't be my story, Lord. My grandma watched the news every day. She gonna see it. Lord, this can't be my story.
Yeah.
I know what you could do for me. Get me out of here, please.
Thank you, Lord.
I must have walked to that car so fast because I knew what I was capable of. Yeah. And I knew that I had a lot of unresolved things in those moments. Yeah. That person would have paid for everything. I was like, I don't want that to be my story. Yeah. Because it would disregard everything that I've gone through up until this moment, and my life will be defined by this moment right here. Yeah. I was like, I gotta get out of here. Yeah. Get me out of here quick. Quick. Please. Because the thoughts are getting louder. Yeah. The voices are coming through. Somebody is upstairs. Please get me out of here.
And that's a natural. That's a realistic thing. Real. It's a real. When they say people snap. Yeah.
It's real.
Snap, and the snap can be, like you said, it can be from things that happen from your childhood that you're resolving in that moment. Yeah. And it has nothing to do with how you respond your response has nothing to do with the actual moment, but it has to do with everything that happened prior to that moment. Yeah. So it's very real. So here we are today on Uncorked Conversations. And there's so much about your life that hasn't even been told, and we would probably have to have a month series.
Girl, a month.
To find out all of the elements and we're really just scratching the surface because we haven't went as deep on
there's still so much
more. So much more to go, but you're in this space now, and it's a lot of people that's trying to figure out, like, how did she get there? We're going through all of that. Like, how can she say that she's in this space? And then your guys let's talk about, I've seen things. I've seen you go on a sabbatical. You be in your own corner, lights out, doors closed.
Do not disturb.
Not talking to anybody.
Nobody.
And then coming out hard. Yeah. Like, coming out hard. So how did you get to find yourself, like, to where you are, like, now? Like, showing up, being in the front when you would have rather been in the back. Going through the things, your family situations. even being in a space to being open to a relationship. Now that you've had both sides.
Yeah.
You had the street, then you had, you said he wasn't a nice guy. He just loved you. So how can you say, or how do you, because I want people to know, how do you really, really feel?
Yeah.
Like, from all of those situations to where you are now, like, do you now feel like it all happened for a time such as this, for you to be a living example, for you to be able to share your story?
I do. I do. Let me first say, only part I play in this is being willing. That's it. Some of the things that I do, some of the ways that I'm able to show up, some of the things that I get through, like the light that I carry, the choices I make, I gotta give 99.9% to God, because if it was up to me, run me that fade. Now. Line it up. I want everybody here.
I get it.
It ain't nobody but God. Nobody. And some days I don't even know how I keep on keeping on. I just know it don't be me. I know it don't be me. I know the things that I went through wasn't just happening to me. Like, I wholeheartedly understand that they was happening for me. For other people, because
that's good.
Talking about rebuild yourself back brick by brick,
Listen.
by brick by brick.
Listen.
I embody that. I embody that. I take my L's on the chin. Like, I take my lessons on the chin. I take my heartbreaks on the chin, because I am love. And it took me a long time to become that person. Like, so no matter what I go through in a relationship today, if my heart went into it in the right posture with the right intention, I'm ready to love tomorrow. You can't take that from me. You literally did not give me the love that I have inside of me. I came with a smile when we met. How dare I let you take something that you didn't contribute?
That's good.
You didn't bring that to the table. So for me, I'm here right now because I understand that there's so many people to come after me that will experience these things, that if they're not experiencing them already, and the things that I've gone through and the things that I'll continue to go through, God literally chose me. So I had to stop asking myself, what he want me to come to the front for? Like, I'm this used, abused, used and abused, like, recycled. Like, what he want me to come to the front for? But it was to show what he could make out of, I don't want to say nothing, but what he can make out of brokenness, what he can put together out of pieces, what somebody thought maybe was trash, like, God said, let me show you what I could do with it. And I understand that people are attracted to my light, but like I tell them, you gotta know this story to understand why you can't break me, because that's something that I run into in past relationships, and I'll say just because of a lack of maturity. I know how to say I'm heartbroken with my words. I know how to say that made me feel a certain way. You're not going to see me sliding down the wall because you've done something to affect me. I could literally tell you that really hurt my feelings. But because I don't display brokenness or disappointment or all of these different things in a way that most people are used to seeing or expect to see, it's been a challenge in relationships, because I understand while I'm feeling this way, the facts still are, I still got to get up tomorrow. If the Lord say the same. I still have duties to do today. I'm just sharing with you that this is a current state of emotions that I'm feeling, but it still has to go on. I understand me choosing to go on is a God thing. It ain't got nothing to do with if I'm in a relationship with you today, if I'm friends with you tomorrow. None of that. If I can get up every day and still make it in survival mode with some of the things that I've been through, and like you said, we haven't even covered a portion of my story. There's not a soul on this earth that's going to stop me from getting up and doing the things that God told me to do, because I know firsthand what it's like for it to be me and God only. I know that's good. I have proven facts that nobody got me out of that. Not even me. Not even you.
I understand it.
but him.
I understand.
How dare I let you take something that you're not even capable of giving me? Mm-hmm. I am love. I'm made of love. Mm-hmm. And I'm still a human, so every day I wake up and I have a choice to make.
Yeah.
Is it a me thing or is it a God thing?
That's good.
No matter who it is, friends, family, relationships, business, and that has to become the focal point of our lives.
Yeah.
Is it a me thing or is it a God thing? Because you got to understand, just like he chose you, he could choose somebody else. Mm-hmm. But for this thing, he chose me.
I got 2 final questions for you. They're real important.
I got 2 sips of wine.
All of the questions were important.
I got 2 sips of wine.
But I think this is important for me to ask you this because, and you may have already answered this question, may have been to counselor, may have been to your family, may have been to a friend or whatever. But the first question I want to ask you is, what would you tell your young self? What would you tell your young self?
So much. I would tell her so much, but I would, today, I would tell her, just sit tight. Mm-hmm. Just sit tight. You coming out of it. Just sit tight. That's what I would tell her.
You got it. I see you really don't want to go too deep. Your eyes got a little misty.
No, I would tell her that because I'm not going to say I would go back and change the things that happened.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
And in those moments, there was no, evidence or sign that I'm going to be all right.
Yeah.
There was no guarantee that I'm going to make it through this. Mm-hmm. I would tell her, somebody coming for you.
That's good. That's good.
Somebody sit tight. Somebody coming for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it because that was the space that we talked about you didn't have as a child.
Yeah.
To know that, okay, I'm comfortable with this person or this is my safe space. Yeah. This is my safe, that. And my last question is, if there was anything that you can tell your family now that you didn't get a chance to tell them that was a part of the story in which you went through at a young age, what would you tell them?
You want me to be direct?
Yeah.
Go get some fucking help. Go do the work. Yeah. Go do the work, because even in the Bible it tell you what you don't deal with will be projected onto your kids. Go do the work. Mm-hmm. As your ancestors did for you. Don't stop being selfish. Stop using the excuse of I don't know. You know, and what you don't know, you could find out. Go do the work. And it's okay. Mm-hmm. It's okay. You're not the first person to be broken. You're not the last person. But until you go do the work, this ain't the last of the bodies on your name. Like, this is not the last of the blood on your hands. Go do the work.
That's good. Well, there's 2 episodes.
So it happened.
Now what?
For me, my now what is, I'm just getting fucking started.
Come on!
I'm just getting started. And just like that. And if anybody is watching that deals with any type of suicide attempts or mental health issues, there's so many resources available to you. I'll be sure to add them into this episode. Find a safe space, because now, even beyond family and friends, there are many safe spaces. Please find them. Your story is not in vain. Your challenges, your traumas are not in vain. We thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Uncorked Conversation with Sunny. Y'all got to be a little bit in my business today. But we thank you and we appreciate you, and we can't wait to see you on the next one. So, cheers to us.